Friends, this is a continuation of the video that we began last week addressing the question and an explanation of the phrase, as long as this happens. It's the story of J.T. Pemberton, whom J. Frank Norris considered as the best friend that he ever had. Addressing the critics of Norris, Pemberton said in those early years, when Norris was called as pastor, he said to the committeemen, "Gentlemen, you can cut this left arm off and let every drop of blood in my body fall on this ground before I will sit silently by and let you ruin an innocent preacher and drive him from the pulpit." Now he was referring to the city fathers who were determined to rid the city of this so-called troublemaker. And so an important incident happened in the early years of J. Frank Norris's ministry. A turnaround in his ministry, in fact, began in about the year of 1913. At the height of this controversy relating with the problems he had with the city fathers when they tried to do their best to run him out of the city, and Norris became discouraged because of the opposition. He had decided to leave Fort Worth and head for California for a new start. But an interesting conversation at that time changed his whole thinking, which lasted until the time of his death. Norris came to Mr. Pendleton and said, "J.T., I'm going to leave town. I have made the best fight that I could. I have a wife and 3 babies. There is no use for me to try and stay here. I wish that I had never seen this town. I never want to see it again when I leave." Friends, that'll give you some idea of the discouragement that this man encountered. So he said to Mr. Pemberton, "I want to borrow some money, but I haven't a thing in the world to give you as security." And those were Norris's exact words. Then Mr. Pemberton said, "How much do you need? How much do you want?" Then Norris said, "Well, I probably want more than I'm going to ask for I'm going out to Southern California. A friend of mine has got a ranch, and I'm going to start life all over again. I'm going to get on my feet, and I intend to make something out of myself or to do something." Then Mr. Pemberton said, "Well, I don't blame you, Frank. You have stayed longer than I thought you would. Longer than I would had I been in the same situation." Then Norris replied, "Mr. Pemberton, you have been a true friend." So therefore Norris then signed a note with only his signature as security. Pemberton then quotes by telling J. Frank Norris, "I want you to go down there and get your money." And then he asked, "When are you leaving?" To which Norris replied, "I'm leaving in the morning at 4 o'clock. I want to leave before daylight. I will take my wife and 3 babies, and I'm going, and I never want to see this place again. I wish that I had never heard of it. I have made a hard fight. I have been wounded to death. I have been betrayed. I have been stabbed in the back. I came here as a young preacher." And I remind you, he was only about 33 years of age at this time. "I thought I was doing the right thing. And then, as we walked to the door, Mr. Pemberton said, I want to tell you goodbye, but I want to say one last word to you. I'm mighty glad that you had last Sunday night's great service before you leave. And you know, as I sat there and I saw 25 or 30 people coming down the aisle, some hard cases that I have known for years, old red-boned sinners as he described it, coming to the altar and confessing the Lord with tears running down their faces. And I saw that night a still larger number coming. Pemberton continued by saying, I don't know, but it must have been at least 50 or 60 during the entire day. And do you know what I thought, Frank? Pemberton said, well, they're cussing out my preacher and attacking him and lying on him, but just as long as that happens, let me reiterate that phrase, but just as long as that happens, and God uses him to win souls like that, no matter what they say about him, he will win out. Norris seized upon that one little phrase, which stuck with him the rest of his life, just as long as that happens. And friends, it did happen for the next 30 years, Sunday after Sunday. Hundreds of people received Christ as a Savior. And I say unhesitatingly, that is the reason why that I admired the ministry of J. Frank Norris. In my mind, he was the greatest soul winner of his generation. And so he deserves. And the facts need to be told. This thought, just as long as that happens, this thought undergirded his ministry for the next 30 years. And it happened every Sunday. And I was an eyewitness for many of those years. Norris then tore up the note and went home and told his wife, we're going to stay. And so most of you know the rest of the story. And friends, that is why the J. Frank Norris Historical Society has been established. And in conclusion, and in keeping with that one phrase, as long as this happens, and friend, you could wish that it would happen all across this country and even in a worldwide manner. That would be our prayer. Gail and I want to conclude this video by singing a song in keeping with that thought, as long as this happens. And this song tells the whole story of just what I've been talking about. And Gail and I are going to sing this great old hymn, Sinners, Christ receiveth sinful men. Listen as we sing together. Just one verse of a wonderful old hymn. Sinners Jesus will receive, sound the word of grace to all, who the heavenly path will lead, all who linger, all who fall, sing it o'er and o'er again. Christ receive a sinful man, make the message clear and plain. Christ receive a sinful man. May God bless each one. God bless the United States of America. Thank you and good night.